Welcome to the Deep Dive. It is so great to have you sitting down with us today. If you are a regular reader of Addis Fortune.
Right, Ethiopia's largest English weekly newspaper.
Exactly. Our newsroom covers everything from, the highest levels of global diplomacy right down to the daily hustle on the streets.
Yeah, we really do. And today we are doing something pretty special. We are bringing the pages of the newspaper directly to you in audio form.
We've pulled a massive stack of 8 distinct stories from our latest weekly editions. Our mission today is to basically synthesize these articles to give you a comprehensive insider's view of Ethiopia right now.
And just reading through this stack, the overarching theme is unmistakable.
It really is. We are looking at a nation that is balancing these sky-high ambitions with some incredibly intense ground-level growing pains.
Yeah, we are going to take you on quite a journey today. We are moving from a $12.5 billion mega airport and global geopolitical airspace closures,
all the way down to the daily struggles of delivery drivers navigating brand new VIP roads.
Right. We'll look at the fight for clean water in rooftop farming.
And we will even get into a $40 million fertilizer corruption trial. It is a lot of ground to cover. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the skies.
Yeah, our front page has been dominated by this major shift from Ethiopian Airlines. As of February 28, 2026, the airline indefinitely suspended flights to 4 major Middle Eastern destinations.
Right, so that is Tel Aviv, Dammam, Amman, and Beirut.
Exactly. And just to give you a sense of the scale here, Dammam alone had 38 weekly services.
Wow.
Tel Aviv had 18. This isn't just a minor schedule adjustment, it is a massive disruption to regional travel.
And the reason for this, according to the airline's notice on X, comes down to regional security risks. The trigger was the recent U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran,
right,
targeting government districts and a leadership compound referred to as the Leadership House, which is used by Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei.
I want to pause here for just a second because it is absolutely vital that we make something explicitly clear to you, the listener.
Yes, please do.
In discussing this conflict, the U.S., Israel, and Iran, we are not taking any political sides whatsoever. Our goal here is strictly impartial.
100%.
We are simply reporting the factual context from our source material to explain why we are seeing these massive airspace closures. When countries like Iran, Israel, Iraq, Jordan, and several Gulf states close their airspace, it completely blocks established transit corridors,
which forces airlines to take massive reroutes. I can only imagine the logistical nightmare that creates for an operations center.
Oh, it's huge. You aren't just changing a flight path, you are adding significant time and fuel costs to every single journey.
And half the flights to Qatar and Israel were canceled across the board, stranding millions of passengers globally. But the fascinating contrast in our reporting is that while Ethiopian Airlines is dealing with these immediate severe route restrictions, they are simultaneously planning an unbelievable pivot for the future.
Yeah, they really are. Boli International Airport is simply maxed out. They are projected to hit nearly 20 million passengers by June 2025.
And the absolute maximum capacity of that facility is only 25 million.
Which brings us to Vision 2040. The airline's executives have realized that Bol cannot be expanded any further. It's just too hemmed in by the surrounding city of Addis Ababa.
So the proposed solution is frankly staggering. They are building a brand new $12.5 billion mega airport in Bishoftu.
Right, which is about 45 kilometers southeast of the capital. We are talking about an airport with 4 runways and a capacity to handle 110 million passengers a year.
What genuinely blew my mind reading this report is the timeline they are targeting. The group's CFO, Adamu Tudel, insists there will be no phased transition.
Not at all.
By 2030, they are moving entirely. As he put it, you can't have 2 international airports. Bol will become just a domestic and VIP terminal.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is about so much more than just a new building or relieving congestion. This is fundamentally about Africa's connectivity.
You see that ambition woven through a lot of the airline's moves. But for a listener who might not be familiar with the nuances of global aviation policy, what does a 110 million passenger hub actually unlock for the continent?
That's a great question.
Because the sources mention the single African air transport market, and I think that's a crucial piece of the puzzle.
It is the defining piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Right now, because of high taxes, lack of infrastructure, and intense protectionist policies between African nations traveling within the continent is famously difficult.
Right.
African travelers often have to fly out of Africa, routing through Europe or the Middle East, just to get to another African country.
Which makes no sense logically or economically.
Exactly. The single African air transport market is an initiative to deregulate African skies. It basically creates a single unified air transport market in Africa.
So this mega hub in Bishoftu is designed to be the physical anchor for that policy.
Yes, it is a massive bet on breaking the cycle of routing through Europe and a massive bet on the continent's economic integration.
It is an incredible ambition. It sets Ethiopia up to be the undisputed gateway to Africa. But reading through the rest of the newspaper, it is fascinating how that push for top-down modernization is squeezing the working class.
Yeah, the contrast is really sharp.
While the country is designing VIP terminals and expanding as a diplomatic hub, the people who actually keep the local economy running are bearing the brunt of that transition.
That friction is incredibly visible with the new VIP roads policy.
Tell us about that.
Beginning February 23, 2026, authorities designated specific routes linking hotels, diplomatic centers, and the airport as VIP roads.
Okay.
To keep these roads pristine and secure, they completely banned motorcycles and trucks over 2 tons from using them.
The human element of this is really tough to read. Our reporters profiled Azrat Hale, a delivery driver who has supported his family for 4 years on his motorcycle.
Right.
He used to make 1,000 to 1,500 birr a day. Now he's making as little as 400 birr. And just to give you some context on those numbers, dropping from 1,500 to 400 birr isn't just a pay cut.
No, not at all.
In an economy dealing with intense inflation, that is the difference between comfortably feeding your family and falling into severe financial distress.
Because he can't use the main transit points like Demble Roundabout or Ghana Street anymore. To get a package across town, he has to take these exhausting, massive detours.
Right through inner streets in Chechnya and Bembis.
Exactly. Sometimes the road is twice as long, burning more fuel and taking more time. Another driver, 22-year-old Nebel Nagash, noted that his business is rapidly weakening because his regular route is totally blocked.
So looking at the bureaucratic view, how does the government justify putting that level of strain on thousands of workers?
Officials like Kitisa Safa from the Traffic Management Authority are quite straightforward about it. These routes were chosen for the comfort and security of international guests and diplomats.
It's an image thing.
It is a deliberate effort to present a modern, congestion-free image of the city. But that creates intense friction. A city desperate to be a pristine global hub is colliding with the on-the-ground reality of over 4,500 motorcycles that are absolutely essential.
Right. They deliver everything from food to electronics, block them, and you effectively choke the local supply chain.
You do.
And actually reading through these sources, you see that exact same top-down pressure hitting the private sector in the form of this new tax law.
The profit tax schedule.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the federal government is aggressively trying to boost its tax to GDP ratio from single digits up to 11%. And to do that, they have completely upended how taxes are collected.
Under the revised income tax law, instead of settling your profit tax once a year, businesses now have to pay quarterly installments.
Which sounds okay in theory until you read the catch.
The catch is severe. You have to pay 25% of the total tax you paid in the previous tax year every single quarter before you even know what your actual profit for this current year is going to be.
That sounds absolutely terrifying if you are running a small to medium enterprise. We spoke to Mintasanat Lema, the CEO of Mintu Investment Group, and he called the approach cruel.
Because it drains crucial working capital.
Right. Working capital is the lifeblood of a business. It's the cash you need today to buy inventory, pay your staff, and keep the lights on. If the government is pulling that cash out every 3 months based on last year's numbers, it leaves you starving for liquidity.
And the fear runs even deeper than just managing month-to-month cash flow. Business advisor Johannes Hailu pointed out a critical systemic flaw.
What happens if your profits drop?
Exactly. Say you had a fantastic year last year, but a terrible year this year. Your quarterly payments would be vastly inflated compared to your actual current earnings.
But you can just get a refund, right?
Getting a refund from the government for overpayment is nearly impossible in practice. Tax collectors will scrutinize your books to find any fault to avoid giving that money back.
Wow.
Effectively, private companies are being forced to finance the state at their own liquidity risk. Even loss-making firms have to pay a 2.5% alternative tax on gross sales.
It is a tremendous amount of pressure on the private sector to fund the state's ambitions, which makes the way the government handles its own funds all the more critical. This brings us to a major accountability story we've been covering.
The fertilizer trial.
Yes, a $40 million corruption trial involving the supply chain of fertilizer.
This is one of the biggest public corruption trials in years. You have 11 high-ranking officials who were arrested, including Kifil Woldemariam, the former chief executive of the Ethiopian Agricultural Business Corporation.
And the core of the prosecution's case is that these officials completely bypassed international procurement procedures and board decisions to import fertilizer for the 2025-2026 agricultural season.
They did.
I was reading the details of this corruption trial on the source, and the logistical failures seemed almost comical if they weren't costing the public so much money.
They paid $24,000 for fertilizer that arrived completely fermented and caked.
But the detail that stood out the most to me was the shipping issue. How exactly did they botch the transportation so badly?
That is where the system's failure becomes glaringly obvious. The procurement team allegedly hired a ship to transport the fertilizer that did not even have a crane on it.
No crane.
No crane. When it arrived, they had no way to unload the cargo. They had to spend an extra $100,000 of public funds just to rent a crane at the port of Djibouti.
It is mind-boggling.
It highlights the core issue perfectly. This isn't just a story about alleged criminal intent. It is a story about a massive collapse of institutional safeguards.
Right.
You had procurement committees allegedly certifying that standards were met when they weren't. You had officials treating basic logistical requirements like making sure your cargo ship can actually unload its cargo as entirely optional.
It really shows the devastating financial cost of treating international procurement rules as mere suggestions.
It definitely does.
Thankfully, our reporting also includes a story about a supply chain actually being fixed rather than broken. Over in the pharmaceutical sector, the Ethiopian Food and Drug Authority is changing the rules to allow contract manufacturing for drugs.
This is a monumental shift for the healthcare sector. Previously, if you wanted to manufacture medicine in Ethiopia, you had to build the entire facility and handle every single stage of production under one roof.
That is an incredibly expensive barrier to entry.
Huge. Because of that, local manufacturers currently supply only 8% of the market. That forces Ethiopia to spend massive amounts of foreign currency importing finished drugs from abroad.
It is a huge bottleneck. But now companies can outsource parts of their production. Take Girma Ababi at Liana Healthcare.
Right.
He was looking at spending 72 million birr just to build a facility before producing a single tablet. Now, through a joint venture, he can use existing idle capacity at other plants to manufacture 9 high-demand medicines.
This is the real insight here. Ethiopia is hacking its own supply chain bottleneck by prioritizing pragmatism over infrastructure ownership.
Instead of building everything from scratch.
Exactly. By allowing unfinished pharmaceutical products to be imported and completed locally, they are substituting finished imports. It saves millions in foreign currency and makes essential medicines far more accessible.
Provided they maintain strict World Health Organization standards, of course.
Which the EFCA insists they will monitor closely.
That focus on pragmatic local solutions over grand top-down infrastructure is a perfect bridge to our final theme today, the intersection of ecology and epidemiology.
The urban agriculture strategy.
Yes. The government just launched a $255 million climate-smart urban agriculture strategy. The vision sounds beautiful. They want to turn city households, fences, and rooftops into vertical food producers to cut food costs and create jobs.
But as with the VIP roads, the grand vision from the top is hitting a wall of ground-level reality.
Our reporters interviewed 29-year-old Abnet Malaku, who has a rooftop plot in the Jamo area raising poultry and vegetables.
And he is quite successful, making 3,000 birrs a day from egg sales. He wants to expand, but he completely refuses to.
And the reason he refuses is the bitter irony of this entire strategy. He won't expand because the city's river water is heavily contaminated with waste.
The strategy is pushing all this modern, climate-smart vertical farming. But it seems to be completely ignoring the foundational need for clean water.
Abnet is essentially forced to choose between using polluted water to grow food for his community or having no water at all.
What's fascinating here is the stark contrast in how the government handles different types of environmental challenges.
How so?
While the city struggles deeply with the physical environment and water contamination, they are making incredible world-class strides in managing the biological environment. This brings us to the Ethiopian Public Health Institute's new Public Health Emergency Management Center of Excellence.
Right, the PHEMCOE. Looking at the data from the source, they are literally turning disease outbreaks into data problems, which is a massive paradigm shift.
It is. For years, fragmented paper-based reporting meant that by the time an infectious outbreak was identified by central authorities, it was often too late to contain it effectively.
Because the paperwork was just too slow.
Exactly. But they've recently rolled out a digitized system called the EPAM platform, and it was put to the ultimate test in November 2025 with the Marburg virus outbreak in Jinka.
Marburg is incredibly dangerous. For anyone unfamiliar, it is related to Ebola, and the World Health Organization notes it kills up to 88% of those infected.
It is highly lethal.
During that November outbreak in Jinka, there were 13 infections and 4 deaths. In the past, with paper files getting lost in transit, a virus like that could easily spiral out of control in a matter of weeks. How did the new system change the response?
Because of this new 890 million bird digitized system, health workers across the region could transmit samples and epidemiological data in real time.
Instantly.
Instantly. The data flowed instantly to the central hub. Authorities used that immediate visibility to deploy rapid door-to-door testing map contact networks and screen travelers.
And the result?
They managed to contain a highly lethal outbreak in under 3 months. It is a massive victory for data-driven public health and shows what the country is capable of when technology meets execution.
So we've covered the geopolitical realities of closed airspace, the vision for a 110 million passenger mega airport, VIP traffic jams crushing local delivery drivers, quarterly tax strains on working capital, fertilizer fiascos, pharmaceutical fixes, rooftop farms without water, and digitized real-time virus tracking.
So what does this all mean?
When you lay all 8 of these stories from Addis Fortune out on the table, you see a country in a period of intense, almost whiplash-inducing transition.
Whiplash is the perfect word for it.
On one hand, you have a nation capable of deploying a digitized, real-time viral tracking system to stop a deadly outbreak in its tracks, and a nation confidently planning a mega airport to redefine African travel.
But on the exact same day, in the exact same city, you have that nation struggling to provide uncontaminated water for urban farmers, imposing heavy-handed tax policies that drain small businesses, and creating street-level gridlock for working-class delivery drivers just to keep a VIP corridor clear for diplomats.
It is a remarkable and often painful balancing act between the future they want to build and the reality they're currently living in.
It leaves you wondering about the long-term trajectory of this rapid, polarized modernization. If this trend continues, will the Addis Ababa of 2040 even be recognizable to the people who built it today? Or will it become a city of 2 completely separate realities, one in the sky for the global elite moving through pristine corridors and mega airports, and an entirely different disconnected reality on the ground for the locals navigating the detours?
That is a profound thought to leave on. A huge thank you to you, our listener, for joining us on this deep dive into the pages of Addis Fortune. We hope this gave you a clearer picture of the complex, fascinating realities shaping Ethiopia today. Keep asking those hard questions, stay curious, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.